This is Discovering Psychology
with Rebecca Schmidt
and Megan Coulis.
Our topic we will be discussing today is conscious and unconscious processes.
It can be found in Chapter 10, Module 1, on page 363.
What is consciousness?
Consciousness is defined by Introduction to Psychology as the subjective experience of perceiving oneself and other entities.
What does that mean?
This definition isn't very useful, however, because of the phrase subjective experience. Science is still in its infancy in exploring the limits of consciousness.
Another way to explain consciousness is if you are conscious of something, then you can record it in words. When our infants viewed people and animals unconscious?
Consciousness is an abstract concept and hard to define, but it's an essential part of our psychology.
At any given moment, many brain stimuli are competing for your attention.
Are you conscious of what you're feeling right now? In your right toe, or your nose, or your fingers?
Here's another example to demonstrate this concept.
Is consciousness gradual?
No, experiments have shown that consciousness is a threshold phenomenon.
That means that consciousness is all or nothing. For example, in one study, subjects were shown words for various lengths of time with various degrees of masking. When asked to rate each word on a scale of 0 to 100, depending on its visibility, they almost always chose 0 or 100.
I'm conscious of things as they happen, right?
Our consciousness fluctuates from being on time to being 30 milliseconds or so behind.
For example, in one experiment, subjects were shown words for 29 milliseconds and they were not conscious of them. However, when they were shown words for 50 milliseconds, they were conscious of them. The interesting part is that they were conscious of them for the full 50 milliseconds. This means that our brain goes back and constructs a consciousness for the first 29 milliseconds.
Another example of consciousness as a construction is the phi effect.
The phi effect is an illusion of light moving back and forth between two locations, or in a gradual, fluid motion, such as these lights above us.
If we only become conscious of some information, what happens to the rest?
The brain uses this information to some degree. In Chapter 4, we studied subliminal perception. Images and words that you are not conscious of can still affect your brain activity to some degree.
In Chapter 7, we also studied implicit memory. Experiences in your memory that you are not conscious of can still influence your behavior.
What's wrong with Cassie anyway? Hey Cassie!
Hey Becca, what's up?
Oh, not much. How's it going?
It's going.
After having a stroke, Cassie suffered damage to her right hemisphere. Now, she shows spatial neglect.
Spatial neglect is the tendency of a person to ignore the left side of one's body, the left side of the world, and the left side of objects.
Strangely, this phenomenon does not occur with damage to the left hemisphere, which would cause spatial neglect on the right.
Cassie's getting ready to go outside and play in the snow. And as you can see, she's only dressing the right side of her body, which is a perfect example of spatial neglect. Cassie, will you please copy this picture for me?
Okay. There you go. The king's son was getting married. The steward sent the servants out to invite the guests. The third servant went to Danny's, and Danny said, I haven't fed my oxen yet. The fourth servant went to Manny's house. Manny said, go away. I just got married myself. There's no words on this page. Or this one either. Jesus explained that the king was like God, our Father in heaven. The people who love God will call when he calls. We'll invite all. Well, that didn't make very much sense.
Hey, will you please point straight ahead?
Spatial neglect is somewhat like peripheral vision. Although Cassie still has sensation on her left side, she doesn't always become aware of it or conscious of it. Just like you're paying attention to this video, you aren't exactly aware of what's going on in your peripheral vision.
This is weird. I feel like I've been here before.
Well, Cassie, I think you're experiencing deja vu. Deja vu is a common phenomenon where you get a feeling that what you're experiencing has occurred before.
On the opposite extreme, Capgras syndrome is when objects and people that should be familiar seem unfamiliar.
Wait a second. You're not Becca Schmidt. Who are you?
Excuse me, ma'am, may I see your license?
That's not me. Do you think that's me? That totally does not look like me.
In the experiment on page 368 of Introduction to Psychology, it is shown that brain activity in preparation for a movement begins before a conscious decision is made. This in turn challenges our perception of free will. This has been Discovering Psychology
With Rebecca Schmidt.
and Megan Coulis.